Welcome to Mostly Politics with Bob and Sherry.
Hi, everybody. Today we have the pleasure to interview Mr. Gino Harris. I met Gino during the 2020 election, and he is the regional coordinator for Black Voices for Trump here in Pittsburgh. Welcome, Gino.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Can you tell us about your experience as the regional director, Black Voices for Trump?
Yeah, it was very, I would say it was a very good experience as far as the political realm. I gained a lot of experience, met a lot of people. It also showed the difficulty of coordinating in the political realm. So it was a lot more good, I'd say, more positive than negative, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world, and I'm glad I had that opportunity.
What are some of the things you did as the
So
regional coordinator?
I was in charge of engagement. So I was to, in essence, create a strategy and try to reach voters in the African American community. And so it was more of like a strategic and coordinative approach to, sway voters and also register voters.
So, what were the challenges that you have met? I know it was a tough task.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a very tough task given the nature of the history recent history between the African American community and the Republican Party, as well as, with Donald Trump, based on, media spewing things that was inaccurate. And so I would say my biggest hurdle, though, was more so trying to get the right, how would you say, supply or workforce to actually make a positive impact on what I was actually hired to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so recruiting people to help you,
Yeah,
that was hard?
yes, it
Okay.
was.
And where did you go to, talk to African American voters and promote Trump? And I mean, what were some of the positive things and some of the negative things you heard?
Well, I went all over Western, for the most part, Western PA. I was in Lawrence County, Beaver County, Allegheny County, mainly. Um, Negative things I heard, I really didn't get negative or that hostile reaction. My approach to them was more fact based. So my initiation and into the conversations, and then what information I tell them was only fact based. I gained the problem was is that a lot of people didn't want to, in essence, hear the truth. So because of the fact that I worked for Trump, they thought, in essence, that what I'm saying was just my spiel to try to get them because, that was my occupation. But I actually was sharing them facts, and a lot of times I would give them the facts and tell them, look it up. If you prove me wrong, you know, come back and tell me where I'm lying at. And a lot of times when they go research it, they come back and say, you were right. And we would get a lot of people switching over and voting for Trump, but not having that large of a platform. That was a big hurdle to try to overcome to reach. It was more individual case basis as opposed to a mass outreach.
So Trump just announced yesterday he will be running again in 2024.
hmm
What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, Trump is my guy. I mean, I think he was the best president of my lifetime. Um, but in today's climate, I'm not in favor of it. To be honest, despite him being my favorite president and being the best president, I think with the current climate and these past elections, how we've seen with the way the nation has kind of shifted, I think it's best if he doesn't run. And honestly, I think, or at least fall back out of the scenes because it's like, people hate him so passionately. Despite all the good he did, it's an emotional hate. And that's very hard to overcome. And I just think I would rather, us win these elections by landslides instead of being close and racist. Because as you see, what happened in our state, it didn't pan out. And I mean, when we're up against the never-ending mail-in ballots, I just think it's best he sits this out, honestly.
So you're more a Republican
Oh,
than you are
absolutely.
just a Trump supporter.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm more of an American than anything, but I feel that my party, the Republican Party, is best to lead America, and I mean I choose America over anybody. So Donald Trump, again, was a great president, the best president, but it's unfortunate we have an emotionally how would I say, charged voting base that is against him. We have an emotionally charged media that uses things to trigger people emotionally to vote. And I just don't see him overcoming that. He has too much baggage against him they can use. And I want to win. I want the country to be better and I want to win. And I don't see him as best fit to win in today's climate.
Okay. Well, Gino, let's talk about yourself. So you're a young African American man.
Yes.
From our previous conversation, you switched party at one point. You were a Democrat. You voted for Obama. What made you switch party, and what got you involved in politics?
Okay, so out of the gate in high school, I was a Republican. I wasn't a Democrat. I switched from Republican to Democrat. Now, the reason why I was Republican is because through the course of my academics, I learned that the Democratic Party was the biggest racist party in American history. So, and when I asked my mother, why are black people voting Democrat, her answer wasn't suitable to me about Democrats being for the working man, the poor man. I didn't see that. So I went Republican out of high school. Now, the issue was Obama comes, right? So Obama comes on the scene, his speeches, his image. I learned that I couldn't vote for this man in the primary due to me being Republican. So I switched just so I could vote Obama. And the reason I did it is it's obvious. So because he's the first African American real candidate, and honestly, for me, it was more than that. Though it was a little personal. I'm not going to lie. I could give you a quick story. In second grade, I remember a teacher. She wasn't my personal teacher, but another teacher. We'd all meet up on the playground, etc. And this teacher said that, to us, a good bit of black kids, that we would never see a black president in our lifetime. Maybe our grandkids, great grandkids, but not in our lifetime. So that stayed with me. I didn't understand in second grade, but it stayed with me what that meant. So when this man came, personally, I wanted him to win for that reason. Secondly, I wanted him to win because his speeches, his message, he was polarizing, and I believed him on that end. Now, over the course of his terms, I see I was bamboozled. I was hoodwinked. Yeah, we won the presidency. If it was good, but it ultimately did nothing for us. So it was like, we got to be done chasing titles. First black this, first black that. That's irrelevant at this point to me. It's about making history by actually making things happen. And Obama, unfortunately, didn't do that, in my opinion, or do enough. And then my heart broke again when I found out he didn't even write those speeches. It was like, geez, oh man, this guy.
Was it a white guy writing them?
It was. It was a white, I believe, Jewish student in college, and David Axelrod, who was one of his primary, advisors, got this kid and had him write Obama's speeches. And I was like, wow, man, it was like you were just fake everywhere. And I was literally done. honestly, I was done with politics until, Donald Trump came on the scene. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what the heck is going on? But then I heard him deliver that "What do you have to lose" speech. I believe he was in Michigan. And that resonated with me. And I said, you know what? He got me charged up, and it was on since then. I switched back to Republican, and I wanted to do more, and I got involved in the campaign, and that's what it was.
So it's interesting to me because you're actually you are Republican first
Yes,
because your knowledge to history.
correct.
Now, in your community, is that fairly rare? And how do you how do you transfer that information to your community, to the African American community, and say, look, this is a history. Here's why I'm Republican.
Right. So I when I deliver the message to them, it's very, I would say, like, especially the black men, it's very well received. Some of them still just don't want to be involved in politics at all. They think it doesn't matter. But I would say they know, like a lot of them know the history. The problem is that it's over time and people pass information has became skewed a lot. So they know that the KKK, was founded as a basically militant arm of a political party. Now, it's historical accurate. It's the Democrat Party. But see, the problem is they've been told the party switched. So in essence, they think that it was the Republicans, and it wasn't. The parties didn't switch. The voting basis switched. Voting strategy switched. The parties never switched. That terrible legacy is the Democrats and the Democrats alone. They have to own that. And talking to them again, I think when I sit down and I talk and I engage, I've swayed a lot of black voters, men. Um, the, the females, my sisters, they're not as well received to the message. And honestly, outside of the ones that I personally knew, I didn't get not one switched over during the campaign trail. Afterwards, I've gotten some, but at least none that I know of admitted to me that they were voting Trump.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And everybody around you, your friends, everyone was Democrat?
To be honest, growing up, they're not really involved, but the ones that are predominantly Democrat. Now, I would say more of associate. My friends, personal, are all Republican.
Okay. So it was a group of you that became Republicans.
Yes, it's a good bit of us are Republican, correct.
Okay.
So you mentioned before that the black men, a lot of them don't want to get involved in politics. And the interesting thing in the Georgia gubernatorial race, that apparently the black men are the ones that voted against Stacey Abrams, and they did come out to vote.
Right.
And they wound up voting for Brian Kemp.
Right.
So, and you're a young black man and getting yourself involved in politics, and so is Rigo Elmore. I know you're friends with him.
Right.
Where do you see in today's culture environment? Where do you see a straight black man? What's your role in the community, and what is your role in the political future?
I think that the black man collectively in society we need to reassert ourselves at the forefront. I think that through systems and things that be, policies that be, by design, we were designed to be taken out of the family, out of the leadership role in our community. And I think it's time we take it back. I think we need to be more politically charged and involved. And I think that we need to vote accordingly to what we feel is necessary in society for not just ourselves collectively, which is important. So we have our own agenda, but also for the greater good of the entire country. And I think that we need to definitely get on the Republican side more because, being in a sense a voting bloc consistently for one party is not conducive for anybody. And if you look, nobody else votes like that. No demographic ethnicity votes like that but us. And it's time to change. So my brothers in Georgia, I'm proud of them for voting against Abrams because, again, she may be a sister, but she's not. Her message, her platform, her stance is nothing more than just following the beat of Joe Biden and the other lefts, which isn't conducive to the black community. As we've seen in the past 20 years, Democrats haven't done anything for us, despite receiving over 90-something% of the vote up until, Trump's campaign. I believe he got 12% of the black vote. But again, Stacey Abrams and people like that, I like to use the phrase, they may be skin folk, but they ain't kinfolk. And even though her ancestors probably come from America, it's unfortunate her platform and her stances don't reflect that.
So, what's your quick pitch? I mean, if when you first meet, say, a group of young black men or old black men, but why would you? What would you tell them they should vote Republican as opposed to Democrat?
Another thing you mentioned, old black men. I wasn't very successful with them as well.
Okay.
Again, I would say that those two groups I mentioned are very emotionally entrenched in the jargon the Democrat spills. The young black male doesn't see it that way. And, what I would come to them is just historical facts and relevancy. What has the Democratic Party done for the black community lately that you know of? Let's sit and talk about it. What policies do you know were enacted? And of those who don't even know any, when I bring up things that Trump has done, they realize, oh, okay, I didn't know. Like, for example, the first criminal justice reform was actually drafted by Republicans both times. Okay, the first one under Obama that couldn't get passed, and the second one under Trump that did get passed. Both were drafted by the Republican Party for criminal justice reform. And then I go into the fact that it was the Democrats who instilled things like the crime bill and the private prison boom, which were basically they've been the leaders behind that. Once I start to show them these facts and put all of it together for them, they can't deny that. Do some still, the ones that don't deny the truth, they may be like, well, I just ain't voting at all. And that's their choice. I'm not going to hammer you. I mean, if you want to improve our conditions as a community, then it's time we got to get with the right or get left with the left. It's that simple.
Yeah, you mentioned about the crime bill. I think there was Joe Biden was one of the main sponsors for that bill.
Absolutely. He drafted and sponsored the bill. Correct.
Yeah, and then he's the one say if you are black, you should vote Democrat.
Correct.
Right?
And he also said he didn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle when they were trying to break down the segregation in Delaware. That's, Joe Biden, and I use this, but it's hard to defeat something when you're emotionally entrenched in this. So a lot of times, like for myself, right, I was raised by a single mother, no father in the home. So, it's not necessarily their fault, but the woman raising boys, they're passing on sometimes that emotional connection to things that we shouldn't have emotional connections to. Politics is one of them. For example, if the GOP switched stances on things, I wouldn't be a Republican anymore. I'm not going to hold on to this party like they can't do no wrong. That's just not me. I mean, politics to me is like business. And the Republican Party, for the past, at least in my lifetime, is good business. And apologize about that. The Democrat Party is bad business. It's common sense.
You referenced some of the racist things Joe Biden had said.
Correct.
I mean, that to me that was common knowledge. I don't, but so do black people hear that and they know what he said? Because it's odd to me that Joe Biden says those things and completely unscathed, where Donald Trump says something, they twist it around and say he called white supremacists fine people,
Correct.
which wasn't even true, and that gets all kind of traction. So everybody thinks Trump's the racist, Biden's not. But when you look at the record, the truth of what they said,
Correct.
is there?
You're
You
absolutely
think that's all the media?
correct. You're absolutely correct, brother. And I use that. What it is, Chief, is that when you're emotionally charged and emotionally believe that somebody cares for you and will do their best for you, you kind to admit things you wouldn't from the suspected person you don't feel was good for you, right? So I'll give you an example. In physical abusive relationships, they may, even though they're told this person is bad for you, they beat on you, they take your money, they don't do for you, you still you stick with them because you feel that you love them, they love you, and they will change and do what's best for you. I would say that's the relationship with the black community and the Democratic Party. It's a battered, physical, abusive relationship where the person is too emotionally entrenched to leave, even though it benefits them and behooves them to leave, they refuse to. So you have the media pumping 24/7, racist this, racist that, but yet they don't do the same when their own candidates. For example, I believe he was either the governor or a senator or political man in Virginia. It was found out that he did blackface in college.
Mm-hmm.
The blacks gave him a pass. It wasn't such an uproar. The media, they didn't destroy him for this. Why? Let that have been a Republican candidate, he would have been chastised and destroyed. And that shows you the bias. So the media is biased, just like Joe Biden saying racist things. The media is biased, and therefore the African American community, despite seeing and hearing it, a lot of them give him a pass as like, oh, he didn't mean it like that, or, oh, and that's the problem. We have to get over the bias. We have to get over the attachment, and we have to get over the misconception that these people want what's best for us. I actually was debating with fellas that are Democrat backing African Americans, and he actually was talking about Joe Biden's Lift Every Voice plan, right? Which was supposed to be his black agenda if he wins for president. Pages long. He did none of them. He did nothing. So out of all those pages of that Lift Every Voice, he didn't lift a finger. He did nothing specifically for the black community, despite lying and saying he would. And guess what? If you have this election again, Joe Biden, you would still get a large amount, if not, 90-some% or 80-some% voting for him, despite lying to him, election in, election out. I mean, it's hard to beat. It's psychological warfare. It's definitely a much harder fight than most actually believe. No, go back upstairs.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you something about. You mentioned about the media, and this is related to education. One of the things that my understanding is the black community is actually a lot of them are very Christian, very conservative people.
Mm-hmm.
But in the media, a lot of streaming services, even you see they're trying to feminize the men.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Showtime, their drag shows, they feature a lot of black drag artists, I would call them.
Right.
But that's not majority of the black men in the United States.
Correct.
As a straight black man, and I know you are definitely a very masculine person. How do you feel about that?
I think that it's disturbing. I think it's by design and by target, because most black men We believe in being the strong image and representation, um, and we don't collectively we don't condone this. But the media is attacking. They, like I said prior in the show, they've made by design to remove us from the home, to remove us from the forefront in the community, and now they're trying to take our masculinity from us in society. I don't understand why they are. I don't know if it's because the black male is seen as more masculine. I don't know that. I have no idea why this assault is happening, but we have to resist it. We have to fight it, and that starts with fighting against the Democratic Party. I mean, again, to each their own, in essence, in a free country. I get that. But to try to influence and target, especially the youth, in that struggle, I don't condone. You know, if someone wants to go out and dress how they want, so be it. But don't think that I have to accept that. And I have to then want to do that. Or I think my kids should be able to do that. That's not how this works. If you want that lifestyle, do it. The media doesn't need to try to portray us in this fashion more so than anyone else now. And that's by design. They're not, these people are not, silly. They're very well funded and very well thought out in what they do. For example, look at Black Lives Matter, one of the biggest scams in American history. Um, but yet they're still coming after us. So we got a large fight on our hands, but our party needs to make it a fight. The GOP needs more outreach in the black community. Under Trump, he gave us so many things that we could piggyback on to get more votes, and they just didn't want to invest, in my opinion, in that fight. And then you have COVID, where we can't do some things. Like I wanted to hold speaking events in these communities, but due to COVID, I couldn't do that. But yet Democrats are doing things like that. 2020 was a very strange year in election. I gained a lot of experience, but I mean, I wish we could definitely have that back in regular times. But we have to act. The GOP has to make it a fight. You gotta change our message and appeal to the black community. We gotta also appeal to the younger populations. We have to regroup and we have to stand firm. If we don't, we might as well sit back, crack a beer, and watch our country burn around us. And that's not what I want to do. And I know that's not what y'all want to do. And I know that's not what a lot of people in our party want to do. But we have to have action. We have to have a better message, and we have to win elections.
Are you a committeeman?
No, I was. I've been offered that to be a committee man. I don't know if they're if they're ready for that. I was thinking about it. I'm probably going to get more involved in the groups. I've been more behind the scenes trying to build my own bases and groups. And, especially after this last election, it's just, I have to go even harder now. Because,
Are you in
go
which
ahead.
county are you in?
I'm in Beaver County.
Is there a committee, a Republican committee in your
Yes,
municipality?
yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I've been to some meetings. Again, um, me joining something, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like to be a follower. Now, I get that there's level, and I respect levels of command and authority. But if I join something and you're not, if there's not enough action, I'm done. I'm not, so I'm trying to build something from the ground up. And then once I have that base secured, then I'll go to these other committees, with numbers now. So
Right.
listen, we got to regroup. We're in the same party. We want the same things. At least with whatever we disagree with, let's come to a consensus on this. But at the end of the day, we got to win elections for this party. And this is my way of doing it. What's your way of doing it? Let's put our heads together and let's make something happen.
No,
Very
I
good.
I asked you this before. I'm going to ask you again.
Abs-
When are you going to run for office?
Well, I'd like to see my good friend, like a relative. I call him a relative to me, Rico Elmore, win. I mean, that's where his passion is. Um, my passion is in results, is in elections being won. I don't necessarily need that for myself. Uh, I know I'm going to have to do something. I would like to see him win and give him as much support as I can. And it's so hard. See, like with our party, a lot of us are full time working people, and not saying you don't have Dems that are, but it seems they got a lot larger voting bases, have a lot of free time, whereas our group, we don't match that with free time. So I'm using for myself. I'm raising my children. I got businesses. I mean, I'm so heavily trying to achieve my American dream, but at the same time, my American dream is threatened by this political realm and what's transpiring right now. So it's
Mhm.
like I'm trying to achieve get the milk and honey that my country has here. Well, I feel a party's trying to zap that milk and honey before I can get it.
How many kids do you have, and what are their
I
ages?
have two children now and one on the way. It's four. My oldest is 4, and two. My youngest right now is 2, and I have one due in January.
Oh
Awesome.
wow! I know you have a boy, right? You
Two
have two
boys,
boys.
soon to
Two
be
boys.
3 boys.
They're starting to teach sex education early in kindergarten and gender identity,
Correct.
teaching them different pronouns. As a father, I mean, are you going to be sit? I can't see you sitting and just let that happen.
No, no, absolutely not. I don't condone that. And if the public schools that I choose to send my children to, if in fact that is even taught or even thought to be taught, I would pull them. And if no other public school that I have the luxury of going to aligns with that, then I would just go private and have to pay out of pocket. I mean,
Hmm.
I feel that, in my opinion, I'm the primary teacher of my children. School is secondary. But given the nature of how much time they spend in school, the secondary also plays a part to me, a big part, just by the nature of the time spent there and allocated there. So, although I feel I could curve my child's thoughts to not go down those paths, at the end of the day, I don't even want that even being introduced to him until they're an adequate age to understand, no. And that's teenage years, which I don't understand why these people want to teach the adolescent this stuff. I don't know why Disney wants to put that stuff in kids' movies. I mean, and then they'll say to me, "Well, Gino, what if it was, hetero?" I said, "Listen, man, I don't want schools teaching kids any sexual things. So if we got to, agree that no sexual education to kids at all, hetero or homo, let's agree to take it all away." You know,
Mm-hmm.
Disney movies, if that's how you want to play, don't put no kissing in the movies, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you know, they don't want to concede to that. They don't, when I hit them with that, they're like, "Oh, well, they could do what they want." Oh, okay. Now, one minute it was, what if this, to think I was going to stand differently. Once I conceded, agreed, let's move it all out. Now you want to go back to, that's their decision if they want to put, you see what I'm saying? That's what we're up against. Why do you want the youth? Why? It's to desensitize and try to sway people. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
happening, man. It's not happening. I mean, I have my views based
This
on
is
the science, based on my religious beliefs, and that's me. You know, I don't judge anybody. I don't insult anyone for what they choose or how they choose to live. As long as it's in the privacy of your home with two consenting adults, it's none of my business. But when you try to put it out there and make people accept it, that's where I disagree with that. And we have to talk about it.
Hey, Gino, thank you so much. I'd love to have you back again at some point.
Absolutely.
So,
Anytime.
yeah, yeah.
Anytime you guys would like, I would love to talk with you, like-minded patriots. I prefer live events where I'm actually in front of you guys. If you could one day, I would love that.
Okay.
I'd come in suited up, and I like those interviews better.
Hmm.
But at the same token, I definitely appreciate you guys trying to make a platform, establish a platform, and get this message out. I'm going to lean on y'all in the coming months, years, was we got to do something. From your county to mine, we got to build, we got to regroup. We need to get people that's about action. I mean, in my gyms and where I frequent, you have a lot of people like-minded, but when it comes to putting boots on the ground, when it comes to, even spending $1, people seem to shy on it. And it's like, listen, if we don't fight, with outreach or money, you ain't fighting at all in politics. You're not
Right.
fighting at all. If you don't
Yep.
put boots
Absolutely.
on the ground, you don't put money behind something, you might as well not even think, you're not even worried. You might as well just deal with what happens. And
Right.
it's got to change. There's a lot of patriots out there. We need to unite and we need to win. I mean, we'll see what happens with my
Yeah.
boy. I personally like DeSantis. I think he gives us the better chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I'm worried about him if he does run, Trump and him going at it. Could that tear the party apart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I mean, in my groups, in my forums, that's what I'm seeing. It's sad, but
Yeah.
I'm being honest. I'm seeing
Yep.
people are digging in, and it could tear our party apart, and then we lose either way. So
Yep.
I appreciate y'all having me on. Anytime you want to talk, I'm here. If you ever want to do a live, I'm here. Just let me know. We'll make it happen. And I greatly appreciate y'all.
Okay. Hey, real quick, do you have a business you want to promote? You mentioned businesses.
No, I have a drain cleaning service, Snakes R Us, and then I have my own personal real estate. But that's not. That's just my. I'm a sole proprietor. It's not necessarily a business.
Okay.
But yeah, we got a lot of businesses trying to make it, and But I appreciate the opportunity to voice my opinion.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Gino.
Gino.
Thank you so much.